For me, music is honestly the biggest part of being here in Miami-Dade.
It's the film music of today. Video games have come a long way, and now they are as cinematic as any feature film that we may see in the movie theaters.
Obviously, there's a little bit of personal preference towards a project like this because there's a lot of emotion for something like this. I was on board the moment I heard about it.
So my name is Luciano D'Amico. I graduated a couple years ago and I was just getting my AA. Music was the one thing that made me feel that I was special in some way. And so it was just, even though I'm studying business, which is not related to music at all, it was just the one thing that I can't let go. That's part of me, it's part of who I am, and that's one thing that I would never, ever leave. One day, Professor Bade just announced that we were going to be doing a video game orchestra. And then I told him that, I had all these, I've been trying to look up scores and stuff from the people who actually made them, and they're already full orchestra scores. And I was trying to find them so I could then, put them into Sibelius, and then, so we could play them for the whole orchestra. So as it came along, I started finding different scores, and I came up with what we now have in the concert. And Joe ended up arranging Skyrim, so that we added that as well.
My name is Joe Paz, and when I was in middle school, I decided I wanted to join band. I had done chorus before, but I'd never really liked it so much, so I joined band. Here at Miami-Dade College, I was actually able to study sound recording with Dr. Ed Kaye and Professor Stephen Quincy at the Kendall campus, and I was able to learn how to use Pro Tools and how to use mics and record a lot of this stuff, which is what originally I was going to use the arrangements for, is to record it, and then it turned out to become a larger product and become the concert.
I am Alberto Bade. I'm the conductor for the Miami-Dade College Film Scoring Orchestra at North Campus and Kendall Campus. And of course I teach other classes as like theory and ear training. But this show directly relates to our vision in the fact that it is just as visual and in a motivic sense, it is as cinematic and as vivid as any film score in a movie. And in some cases, it's even more impacting because it's almost every moment is epic and every moment requires just absolute intensity. So it directly relates to our curriculum.
My name is Jackie Rodriguez. I study music education, and I am expected to be graduating at the end of the semester. I pretty much always collaborate with Joe on everything, so yes, I did help, particularly with the Zelda video. I did help a little bit with the arrangement as well. And yeah, I'm just a member of the orchestra, mostly playing clarinet. Oh, I think it's amazing. It's a dream come true, and I think a lot of people that play video games that also really like music will really enjoy this concert, and I'm sure we'll love this all the same. Maybe it'll help people get encouraged to play music, you know, because some people have this idea about orchestra. It's like, oh, you know, classical music is just Beethoven and Mozart, but there's so much more involved, especially in today's day and age with movie scores and video games. All great music, especially because the graphics, it's a very cinematic experience now. So the music plays a very large role in storytelling, just like films do.
It's the film music of today. Video games have come a long way, and now they are as cinematic as any feature film that we may see in the movie theaters. It directly relates to film music, and it's actually relative to even classical music. Classical elements are in there. They fit perfectly into a curriculum of any film or regular symphony orchestra.
The concert is actually going to involve several video games from different time eras, especially spanning all from like beginning of video games from like 1980s and 70s to, throughout, including like, you know, Mario, Zelda, you know, very original characters, and all the way up to like Halo and Skyrim, which came out within the last decade. You know, in storytelling now, it's more than just oh look, I'm playing a game to pass the time. It's like their stories, those characters grow on you, you know. So it's really something that's evolved into something that probably nobody ever in 1980 would have imagined it's what it's become. So.
Kona. I'm a music business major, the Associates in Science degree, and I am studying sound engineering. So what I'm doing with this concert is I'm putting together the different sounds of the video game, because along with a lot of the orchestral sounds, there's some sounds that can't be replicated with an orchestra. You hear the boing from Mario or the choom 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 from going inside a tunnel. Those things we can kind of replicate, but we want the real legit stuff because that's what we want our guests to hear, because that's what the show is all about. It's a well-rounded show. So I'm making sure that things like the Gregorian chants or the choir and Halo are sounding just right for the show, because it's really important. We want the orchestra to shine that day.
This is a totally different approach than what normal orchestras are used to, in which in a normal orchestra, or let's just say a symphony orchestra, we have the conductor that is basically the metronome, meaning he's the device that is keeping everybody together. That's what conductors do with their hands. Nobody really knows that, but they're just showing where the tempo and the pulse of the music is. What happens is, in a regular symphony situation, the conductor has the liberty of stretching phrases, making them a little bit slower or faster according to whatever the musical phrase may be. And it compensates for musicians being able to maybe slow down, speed up, but it all works together. With this show, it's a totally different approach where we're going to have a click track. In studio recordings, musicians use a metronome that is clicking, and they hear it in their headphones. Obviously, you don't hear it in the music, but that click is what they play to, and that keeps them together.
In this case, since we have a sync with visuals, we have to be on time. So that's why this click track is a new factor, and it's very challenging. You might think, oh, a click track is going to keep my pace. Yes, it is, but everybody has to keep that pace, and everyone has to be together. Because when you're watching the video at the concert, there's going to be a certain action point, and you're going to hear the string section just crescendo in, and it's going to be something really powerful, and it's got to happen on time. Because that's the feeling we want to portray. The same feeling that we had when we were playing these games when we were younger.
started playing Super Mario back in the late 80s when I was in kindergarten. That was it. We were all playing Super Mario 1 and 2. And then, of course, Zelda. Zelda was my favorite video game simply because the storyline was just so... I love just great storylines. I love imagination, and Zelda just captured all of that. It combines so many different elements from both mythological and just new material. It's so great. So Zelda and Mario were games that I played. I also heard of Final Fantasy while I was in high school, Final Fantasy VII, and the whole theme of Sephiroth. Everybody knew about that. So I've been around video games quite a bit, but not the modern video games. Recently, my students got me into playing Skyrim, which is a game that basically took over my life for about a month when I started playing it, because it's amazing what video games now do, and you just get consumed by them.
I remember very clearly. I remember it was like it was just yesterday. I was in my room, and my older cousin came and he gave me a Nintendo 64. That was because, I'm like kind of second generation. I did play some Super Nintendo, but when I really got involved was when I first played Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This game was magical, and for the longest I didn't understand why. I was like, why am I so connected to this game? Was it because it was my first favorite game? Maybe. And I always ask myself, well, why? Why is it so moving? And it's this stimulation that you get visually, and when you're listening, it's almost like a full stimulation that you're getting from the video game. And it's something that, honestly, I feel as passionate about today as I did when I was 7 years old.
That's an extremely difficult question. I would say it's always between a Final Fantasy game. Chrono Trigger is definitely up there. It always changes, and recently the Mass Effect series by BioWare, which also has great music, amazing music.
So Chrono Trigger, for me especially, it's special just because when I came to the United States, that was one of the first games that I played by myself without help of my siblings or anything. And so all of those, and that game has such a great soundtrack, even though it was the quality of the Super Nintendo. One of the first, and I'm playing flute in the concert, so I get to play a couple of the solos that are in this piece. The first solo, it goes, da, 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 da. And that happens in a specific point in the game where you really don't know what's going on because you just time traveled into the past, and that's the theme of that first era of time where you come into. And that's such a big moment for me in my video game experience.
our take on this orchestra is to not be just your traditional symphony orchestra. I'm classically trained, so it's my tendency to want to just play Beethoven, Mozart, and Bach. But my vision for this group was to not only play the master's works such as Mozart, but also have film scores, of course, which is our title, and also even jazz, just to be as versatile of an orchestra as possible. And that's our image. We play it all, and that's really what students need to be learning if they're going to be competitive in the workforce.
Good music is good music. I mean, if you want, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Harry Potter, those are all good pieces. They have great melodies, they're orchestrated well, and they're just interesting. I mean, they have all these different melodies flowing from the different sides of the orchestra. You have the woodwinds playing something, the brass playing something, the strings playing something, and then, you have percussion breaks. And so it has all these different themes and modes within the piece. And then if you do like video games, it's even better, because if you have played Final Fantasy, if you have played Chrono Trigger, if you've played Halo, Kingdom Hearts, Skyrim, then you also know the video game for the music. And a lot of these video games they wouldn't be the same without the music. If they didn't have these great themes, it just wouldn't be the same. You wouldn't have the same, memory. When you hear something, it brings back memories of where you heard it. And so this concert is really for anyone who loves music, and also especially for people who really love video games, especially those video games, because it'll just bring back all the nostalgia of the years of when you played them. And for a lot of people, it was when they were kids. Now they're adults, now they're living their lives, and going back to a simpler time is something that, everyone is always open to.
The thing about music is that it's a timeless thing. We listen to music every day, and what we do with it is so amazing. It's this idea that we can isolate ourselves from all the problems in the world, from the situations we might have, and for a brief moment, we can be in our own world. And then you bring that into a world, a fantasy world, where you are a character, you can be a savior, you can be a hero. It just feels great. And I get this a lot. Well, why are you so into video games? That stuff's not real. And what I tell those people is that, Link from Zelda affected my life more than many real people. So they're kind of realer than people in a way. So that's just the truth.
Somebody
Music in video games has evolved so much. And even games that came out in the 90s had good soundtracks. You know, a lot of the Final Fantasy games, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, a lot of those games had just great music. The sound quality wasn't great. It was kind of MIDI, and it wasn't done with a real orchestra, but, you know, those tracks were great. And now that it's been done in a full orchestra arrangement, with like Distant Worlds and other groups, it's a whole other thing. I mean, I hear the pieces now, and it just, you know, just makes me want to close my eyes and just take it in, because it's a different time, you know. And music is one of the few things that just, for me, will never let me down. If I listen to those pieces again, it just brings me back to just good times.
You know, when you think of, like, for example, Mario, there's almost like a swing kind of feel, so you almost get into like the jazz-oriented sort of a style. There's a waltz in that one as well. You get from, you know, swing to waltz to just a lot of percussion. In Halo, there's a lot of electric guitar. It's like the lead instrument, so you get into like really different things. So Halo has almost a rock feel. Whereas Skyrim is just intense. There's no other way to describe it. And then you have the Final Fantasy music, which is just beautifully orchestrated, and it's extremely great.
Faculty at Miami-Dade College is world class. They are just in every department. They're just really, really, really special people. People that I was fortunate enough to study with when I was here. So it's a great experience to now be able to call them. It's kind of weird because I have to call them colleagues now. I still see them as teachers. They're so impacting and just absolutely inspiring. And they do what they did for me today. They inspire students and really create the next generation of artists and producers in this business.
As a sound engineer, I focus a lot on technological aspects of different projects. But for this project in particular, it's really important for me to be engaged with the orchestra, engaged with the musicians, because if they say, hey, these certain measures are certain articulation, I need to understand that and be able to EQ or do some stuff with the dynamics of the music, and I have to do that accordingly to what the orchestra is going to play.
It is definitely a more difficult task. There are a lot more precision things, like having to line up with the video, particularly because these arrangements have been orchestrated for a full orchestra. A lot of players have to play very specific things, like in my case, I have to play a lot of string parts. So it's more difficult in the sense that a lot of those things aren't as easy on different instruments. So it's definitely a lot more difficult, but it's all about precision mostly, just lining everything up. has definitely changed. When I started at MDC, or at Miami-Dade, I didn't think it was going to be as great of an experience. Like, I never expected that I would be able to have all these different opportunities, like being able to record in the studio, both here and in the Kendall campus. They both have amazing studios. So I learned a lot about the recording process. And in this orchestra, in particular, being able to do so many things that introduces people to classical music now. Like, it's not just Beethoven and Mozart, you know, there's so many great film scores and video game scores that are just as beautiful, and I never thought that I would be able to have that experience. So it's just amazing to be able to do all of these things here at Miami-Dade. It's wonderful.
It's one of those things that, like, you know, your parents always tell you, like, no, you can't be a musician, you know, they don't make any money. And that's not true, you know. Once you get into it, you get far enough and you do enough things, you know, the money will come, you know, and I would never even think about the money. It's just, you know, something that, you know, once you really do it, and it's just such a gratifying experience that I wouldn't give it up for the world. So I mean, I would just tell anyone to just go for it. You know, if you want to be a musician, go for it. You know, just be clear cut what you want to do. Do you want to teach music? Do you want to perform music? What is it exactly that you want to do? And just go for it. You know.
I'm classically trained, but at the end of the day, I'm a musician. I make music, and that's my business. So if it's great music, if it's played well, and played with a lot of passion, then I'm all for it, and that's what I teach and preach. What I love most about it is the fact that every department is coming together and working together, and we're seeing the possibilities of Miami-Dade College, which, in my opinion, are endless. I am actually a graduate of Miami-Dade College, North Campus, and my memories of Miami-Dade College were just great musical experiences.
We're in my office right now. This is where I get to work and I get to study. And all the opportunities that I've gotten is because of what I know, what I've been able to do, and the people I was able to connect with when I'm here. And that just goes to show what Miami-Dade College is actually capable of.